So this morning, we celebrate the fourth Sunday of Easter with some very provocative readings, and readings that in today's society, maybe we don't understand as well. First, how many of you have tended sheep? Not a whole lot. How many of you are farmers? So we don't have a lot of farmers either. So a lot of the agrarian examples in the parables kind of fly by us in today's readings. But they're very strong parables. They're very strong indicators of what Jesus Christ intends for us in our life. And I love this time of Easter because we concentrate on the salvation story from the Gospels and from what was happening in that early church. And so we have this morning the reading from Acts, in which Peter basically lays down the gauntlet with the Pharisees when they're upset that he's healed a crippled person. And he basically lays it out there, plain for them to understand that Jesus is Christ, and it is through Jesus Christ that we gain our salvation. And John repeats that sentiment in the letter that we wrote from John when he talks about God's love for us and that they don't know us because they haven't accepted his Son. They felt so strongly about that message this morning that they carried that over also into the psalmody. So in the responsorial this morning, it was the stone rejected by the builders has become the cornerstone. And Peter even says to them, you builders. So he's indicating the Jewish people as being the builders. And that the temple is Jesus Christ. And he is the foundation of that temple. He is the cornerstone. And they've rejected him. And so he lays that out for them so that they understand that the faith of the Christian people is based on the entire work of what Jesus Christ did for us in our life. There are many words in today's reading, besides the agrarian references, that will just slip by you in today's language if you're not paying attention. And the second one is I am. Who is I am? It's God. God is I am. And the Jewish people were forbidden from using those, from uttering those words. And yet, in this reading from John, we hear repeatedly, I am. In the verses just before today's reading, when he leads this analogy about the shepherd, Jesus says, I am the gatekeeper. And then he follows it up in the reading that we heard this morning, I am the good shepherd. He is Jesus Christ, and they are recognizing that in his very words at this very point by him saying that. So it's a gift that Jesus Christ wants to give us, a gift that has to be freely accepted in our life. And in this terminology, when he says, I am the good shepherd, what is it that Jesus wants to provide for us? Well, Jesus wants to provide for us redemption. He wants to provide for us salvation. He wants to provide for us a path of reuniting with the Father. And the question becomes in all of that, we've all read this, we've all seen this, we've all heard this story, I am the good shepherd. What is it that he wants from us? What Jesus Christ wants from us is trust. Trust. We have a young child that's going to be baptized at this service. That child develops trust at a very young age, and it trusts its mother and its father. It knows the voice of its mother and its father. The first things that child will remember in its life are going to be with that mother and father. And many of the examples that we learn in our life begin as that little child. Can you think about how many of you are parents? We've got lots of parents, right? Everybody, there's lots of parents. Can you remember when your child makes its first steps? Do you sit across the room and just hope it falls? No. You're there protecting it, aren't you? You've got your arms extended. You're going to catch that child when it falls. You're going to facilitate it taking those steps. And it's in that trust that that child has in taking those small steps that they become bigger steps. It's 2 steps. It's 4 steps. It's 8 steps. Your child is walking. That's a result of that symbiotic relationship between you and that child, developing that trust that you're there for them, and you're not going to ask them to do anything in their life that's going to hurt them. You want what's best for them in their life. Think of swimming pools. Your children are frightened of the water, and it's a good reflex to be frightened of the water when you don't know how to swim. But what do? We stand in that out away from the edge of the pool, and you extend your arms and you say, I've got you. I've got you. Go ahead and jump. I've got you. And it's to introduce that child to the water, to get them to be comfortable with that water. But it's with the understanding that you're going to be there to catch them. Those lessons that we learned as a child continue with us in our adult life. When I was, my first career was in the U.S. Coast Guard. And I was a maintenance officer, and I flew Falcon 20 business jets that had been modified for search and rescue. And in that capacity, as the maintenance officer, it was my job to sign off on work that was done on the airplane. And when a job was done on the airplane, they'd come to tell me, hey, this was done, Mr. Beam. We need you to sign off on this item on that airplane. One thing that's unique about Coast Guard flying versus Air Force flying or Navy flying is that it's very small. And so the people that work on the airplane are the people that fly the airplane. You fix it, you fly it. So do you think you're going to do a good job working on the airplane if you're going to depend your life on it? That symbol, that trust that develops between the air crews and the Coast Guard is very strong. I've flown in level 5 thunderstorms and in hurricanes and in really bad weather, and I never for a minute doubted that airplane was going to be able to sustain what we were doing because of that developed trust between the crew as far as what was going on in the airplane. And that experience that I had in the Coast Guard repeated itself with American Airlines when I came to work here in Tulsa. And we have several mechanics out here that I've worked with on airplanes. And I knew if they fixed it, it was going to be done right. And if we had an issue, they were going to make it right before I had to go fly that airplane. And after all the maintenance is done on the airplane, we do a functional check flight to make sure everything was done properly, to check it out. And sure, there's every once in a while, there's something that happens. One time flying a 757, right after takeoff, the caution advisory system went haywire, including the stall warning, something like what happened on these 737s and their crashes. And the stall warning system started activating, trying to pull the airplane up. And you can physically override it. You push it forward and to disconnect it. But there was a cacophony in the cockpit because this caution advisory system continues to go off. Could we have handled that emergency without any help? Sure, we would have handled it, but it would have taken longer, and it would have been a lot less safe situation because of all that noise. But on check flights, we fly with tech crew chiefs, 3 men sitting behind me in the cockpit. And they knew immediately which circuit breaker was causing that warning and silenced that horn. Huge decrease in stress level when that horn is suddenly gone, and you can actually contemplate what you have to do to get that airplane back around. That's trust. That's a developed thing in our life, is trust. Just as we develop it in our personal life, Jesus Christ wants us to develop that within our relationship with the Father, with the Son, and the Holy Spirit. He is calling us, through being our shepherd, to have trust in our life. Trust is paramount. Just because Jesus Christ died for us, it's to no avail if we do not trust that. It's of no avail if we do not live that in our lives. We have to accept that grace. And until we trust in Jesus, we do not open up that pathway for God to give his graces in that situation. 2 weeks ago, we celebrated Divine Mercy Sunday. And Divine Mercy Sunday concentrates and was illuminated by the readings of St. Faustina Kowalska. And in her writings, she told us, "The graces of my mercy are drawn by means of one vessel only, and that is trust. The more a soul trusts, the more it will receive." I challenge you in your life to reflect on your faith, reflect on your walk, reflect on your relationship with Jesus Christ, reflect on the fact that he is counting on you. Jesus, I trust in you. He is counting on you, and we need to live a life of trust in what Jesus Christ has provided in our lives so that we can reap the eternal reward. God bless you this coming week.